So with that, I am going to gavel us into session. First agenda on the agenda item is the minutes from July 7. Is there a motion?
Move to approve, subject to modification.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a tie for second. Okay. Page 1. Page 2.
On the first paragraph, Allenbrook is spelled wrong. It just needs to change the A to an E.
That's the second A.
Yeah, the second A to an E. Yes, thank you.
And on the motion on that one, we move to accept the Recreation and Parks Master Plan and not adopt.
Anything else on page 2? And page 3? Page 4? Page 5? Page 6?
Under the first line, rather than, it's just a tense thing, Ms. D'Agostino said no substantive decisions would be made, because it was
Right.
the future.
Okay. So, subject to those modifications, all those in favor of adopting the minutes say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. I abstain. That would bring us to public comment. This would be a moment for people to make a public comment. If you'd ask you, please limit it to 3 minutes, and do recall, address yourself to the board. It can be on any topic whatsoever, but if it's something that's going to be later in the agenda, you may want to hold off, but you don't have to. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to make a public comment? Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is the right time. I know you're going to be discussing the library project. Perhaps it would be better then.
Probably, but it's up to you.
I'll wait.
Okay. All right.
Do that. Okay.
Anybody else? So, Aaron, is there anybody online?
There's attendees, but I see no hands.
No hands. Okay.
We had a few mics turned on. I just was guilty of it myself.
So,
Yours is on. No, now it's off.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
so that would bring us up to the public hearing, the zoning bylaw amendment. The statute requires that I read the following. The Williston Selectboard will hold a public hearing to receive comment and propose changes to the existing Williston Unified Development Bylaw. The public hearing will take place on Tuesday, July 21, 2026 at 7:05 p.m. in the Beckett McGuire Meeting Room in Williston Town Hall, located at 7900 Williston Road, Williston, Vermont, with remote participation available on Zoom. And then the notice goes on to explain the amendments in a summary fashion. So with that, the public hearing is convened. Emily, Aaron, did you want to start us off first? Or?
I'll hand it to him.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so this is a package of bylaw amendments. It's primarily clerical edits and some minor substantive amendments to bring our bylaw up to date with the adoption of the 2025 town plan. The main reason we're having this hearing tonight is the prior hearing was postponed to go over the village zoning district bylaw language with regards to the access chapter. So the updated language that was warned for this public hearing narrows the parameters, and the DRB or zoning administrator would have to make some distinct findings in order to permit a driveway width that is narrower than the range that would be required as a standard. This is primarily for, well, it's only applicable in the village zoning district, so this bylaw amendment, we're not tweaking the access standards everywhere else in town. It's only in the village, and it primarily impacts commercial development or mixed-use development where there's a shared driveway involved. The Planning Commission was in full support of this recommended language that was warned for public hearing. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So with that, this is a public hearing. Are there people who wish to participate by giving their opinion and otherwise making comments?
Prepare something, and I actually timed it to 6 minutes.
It's a little long, but if you, yeah.
So,
Could you introduce yourself?
yes. Good evening. I'm Nao Ogilvy. I'm the owner of 38 Slate Barn Drive, which is directly adjacent to the development that recently submitted the pre-application. That application has now triggered what I believe is an amendment to the amendment. I don't know. You guys obviously have to figure that part out. But I'm here tonight to ask you not to adopt the change proposed by the planning staff in the April 2nd memo. That change would allow the DRB to reduce driveway widths for mixed-use buildings to as little as 12 feet for infill or adaptive reuse projects in the village district. I would ask you to reject the petition requesting that change, instead adopt the amended bylaws as they were originally proposed in April, which would require a 20-foot width for all mixed-use properties. Before I get into details, I just want to address something that I feel like has come up here in previous meetings. I don't consider myself a NIMBY. I only mention this because neighbors who have raised concerns are being portrayed as people who simply don't want housing in their backyard. For some background, I don't live at the Slate Barn address. My home in my backyard is in Huntington. It's where I own property, which the applicant, actually Matt, had developed here. And he could probably attest that I've never attended any hearings on the project. I'd probably attest that I've never attended any hearings on the project that he had been developing in Huntington. I thought those buildings in Huntington were a great addition to the community. They expanded housing stock and provided housing that the community desperately needs. And all of that great development occurred within 400 feet of my property. So I don't consider myself a NIMBY when I'm bringing up concerns. My concerns here are not to stop housing. I would welcome and encourage it. In most places, this is not one of them. When I first received the pre-application and reviewed the plans, my primary concern was stormwater runoff. The amount of impervious surface being added was and still is concerning. After the first DRB meeting and the pre-application, I learned that many of my neighbors shared the same concern. As I paid closer attention to what was being proposed, I developed additional concerns related to fire safety. These concerns have only grown as I've looked more closely at that project. Today, the property consists of a real estate office and an apartment. From a fire safety perspective, the driveway is of little consequence because the entire structure can be accessed from Route 2. Under the proposed development, however, additional residential structures would be built behind the existing office and apartment. As a result, the emergency vehicles would need to use the driveway to access those buildings. Both the International Fire Code and the National Fire Protection Association standards establish a 20 feet minimum as the minimum width for fire apparatus to access roads. I assume that's where the Planning Commission or the Planning Department had originally derived their 20-foot requirement. The reason for that standard is fairly straightforward. It allows two vehicles to safely pass side by side. In areas with higher traffic volumes, you want emergency vehicles to have unobstructed access so they aren't delayed when responding to an emergency. Once you reduce the width below 2 lanes, there is a real possibility that vehicles will need to be moved or shuffled before an emergency responders can reach the scene. As a person who had spent time in the volunteer fire department in Huntington, with modern day materials, the speed is of the essence. Materials from the 50s take about 25 to 30 minutes to go up in flame in a room. Materials from today with modern synthetics, it takes about 3.5 to 4 minutes to get a room to engulf in flame. So wasting even 30 seconds could lead to a substantially more severe fire. It's also important to remember why we're having this discussion tonight. This proposed bylaw change is not driven by a broadly identified problem. It's being driven by a single pre-application. So I think we should evaluate whether this amendment should go forward based on what's being proposed in that pre-application. And here are some details for this specific case. According to Ridgeline's website, the real estate office, there are 25 active agents that work at that office. The proposed driveway would now need to support a duplex, 2 single-family homes, an apartment in the existing structure, and an office with roughly 25 employees. That leads to what I think the central question is before the board. Do we believe a driveway serving a duplex, 2 single-family homes, an apartment, and an office with 25 employees should be required to meet the 20-foot width standard? If the answer is yes, then the board should adopt the bylaw amendments as they were originally written. The only reason the standard is being reconsidered is to accommodate this specific development proposal. I would like to believe that if you gave the DRB this flexibility, they would recognize the safety concerns and deny the request. However, I am concerned that putting responsibility solely on the DRB creates unnecessary pressure. Many people who serve on development review boards come from development, construction, engineering, or related fields. They volunteer because they care about their communities and bring valuable expertise to that process. But because of their backgrounds, they also may be more inclined to find ways to make projects work. My concern is not with the individuals serving on the DRB in Williston, rather it's the flexibility that exists. There often is pressure to use it, and if the standard can be waived, there will be a strong incentive to accommodate the project rather than enforce the original requirement. That's why I believe a better approach is to keep the standard clear. If 20 feet minimum width is what is needed to provide safe access for emergency vehicles, then the bylaw should continue to require 20 feet. The board should not weaken that requirement to accommodate a single project. So I propose the question again: do we believe a driveway serving a duplex, 2 single-family homes, an apartment, and an office with 25 employees should be required to meet the 20-foot width standard? Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Other comments?
I'm Matt Parisi. I'm the owner of 7997 Williston Road. I'll try to keep this brief because I think a lot of this stuff kind of goes what would be going before the Development Review Board as opposed to the Select Board. When the planning staff looked at this, and then when I looked at these changes as well that the planning staff and the zoning administrators discussed, it actually could affect up to 2,000 homes in Williston. Or properties, parcels. So it doesn't just affect my parcel. I happen to be usually at the leading edge of infill development. I started doing infill development in Winooski about 10 years ago when they first changed their zoning bylaws. So I tend to run into this kind of stuff a lot. I think the final thing to note would be that this gives the DRB discretion between 12 and 20 feet. So I think every case is different. In our case, we have 25 feet, right? Our right-of-way is 25 feet, so we can actually make that road wide enough for the fire trucks, essentially, and emergency vehicles. What we couldn't do was do 20 feet and then 4 feet of clear space on each side, because that's 28 feet, right? So there's that 3 feet issue. As you all are well aware, 20 feet is more than enough for a fire truck and another emergency vehicle. But again, this really is just project details for my project that the DRB would look over. If there was an obvious situation in the future where somebody only had a 12-foot right-of-way and they wanted to build 10 houses or 2 houses or whatever, then I think that would be a bit of a different scenario. And I think the DRB would be able to make that decision. Not only that, but they would have to get a sign off from the fire department on that. So ultimately, it wouldn't just be in their, at their discretion, essentially. So really, that's all I have to say to this. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Great. Thank you. Other comments or input? Nope. Emily, can you address any of these issues, or are you not in a position to do that?
Yeah, because there's been so much time lapsed over this hearing, I just want to refresh on some of the facts of the bylaw. So as it stands today, the driveway standard is 12 to 16 feet. The DRB can pick any number in that range. For properties that have 2 or more residential homes on them. The bylaw is currently silent on mixed-use development and commercial development. In fact, we don't have a commercial driveway standard, anywhere in town. They tend to follow fire code and do that 20 or 25-foot width. But I digress. Right now, the bylaw is 12 to 16 feet. The DRB can pick a number. They usually 10 to 14 because that's what the fire department requests. The bylaw currently has 4-foot clear zones on each side of the driveway. and that is not being proposed to change. It's still going to be 4 feet clear on either side, which gives a little more wiggle room for vehicles to pass, and make sure that brush and branches don't come in contact with, emergency service vehicles. So 4 feet on either side of the driveway today and under this proposal. The way that the language was updated is that the DRB or administrator needs to find that the basic requirements of this chapter are met, i.e. that safe, adequate access can be provided, and that the reduced width furthers the purpose of the village zoning district, which is mixed-use development in a compact district where we are doing infill, or people are doing infill. There are some more site constraints than doing raw land development in the suburban or rural parts of town. There's more constraints here. So being mindful both of those constraints and providing safe, adequate access. And the DRB would then consider those facts of, what's the length of the driveway? How many units or businesses are being served by it? Is it windy and narrow, or is it a straight shot? Consider all of those factors in determining with the applicant's engineering studies what makes the most sense for that particular property.
Thanks. Any questions for Emily?
I do, is that our turn to ask questions, or?
Yeah.
So can you explain the relationship between our zoning regulations and the fire department regarding width of a?
Yeah, so the Williston Bylaw is a duly adopted ordinance. The fire department plan review standards is a policy, not an ordinance, so it's taken under advisement, but it doesn't carry the full weight of the zoning bylaw. Separately is the National Fire Code, which is what the state fire marshal uses. So most development that's not an owner-occupied single-family home has to go through the state of Vermont Fire Marshal's office, where they enforce fire code. So it's the applicant's responsibility to make sure that they're meeting our zoning and the state fire code. Sometimes we try to overlap and dovetail for convenience, but ultimately the zoning bylaw is not enforcing state fire code or the national NFPA fire code.
So in general, if we went to 12 plus 4 on either sides of that combination, if the DRB chose to go that minimum and there was a question about fire safety, would that overrule our ordinance or not?
It could, and then ultimately it's up to the applicant to, rectify those differences.
What's that mean?
So, I guess I'll use another example is how many points of entrances a building needs to have based on how big it is or how many units it serves. Our bylaw is completely silent on that. You could build a box with no doors in the industrial district because there's no design review there. But the fire code is going to say X number of square feet needs to have X number of doors a certain distance. Or in the form-based code district, we say you have to have, doors every 70 feet. Well, the fire code might say, actually, you need doors every 50 feet to serve the layout that you're doing. So it's up to the applicant to take those two different standards and design a project that meets both. And this is pretty common practice, that sometimes zoning and fire code align and sometimes they don't, and the applicant makes design choices to meet both of them.
But the fire code supersedes the ordinance.
To some extent, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they need to make both of them work to be able to get permits under both regimes for their project to move forward.
All right, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
Other questions from the board? No? Yeah. Great. Thank you, Emily. So,
Is there anybody online?
yeah. Nobody online?
Not with their hands raised.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so hearing no other input, a motion to close the hearing would be in order.
Move to close the public hearing on proposed zoning bylaw amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There were no nays. The public hearing is closed. That would bring us to the next agenda item, which is consideration of the zoning bylaw amendments. What is the pleasure of the board?
So are we ready to adopt? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Are we ready to vote on adopting?
Yeah.
Are we ready to have a discussion about adopting them?
Both. Discussion and make a motion if that's what people want to do.
I do not feel a need to take any other one except at this point to decide if we're going to adopt it or not.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't have any questions that I need answered.
Okay.
We've talked about this multiple times, and it's gone back to the planning commission, and they have reviewed it, so.
Yep, okay. So with that being said, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to adopt amendments to the Williston Unified Development Bylaw as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those,
I want to give everybody thanks for, it's contentious and it's hard to come and speak in front of meetings, and I appreciate everybody who did. It's interesting, one of the first ones probably in 4 years that I've actually had some contention over that we've had to go through. But I trust the DRB to make good choices.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? There are no nays, the motion carries, the amendment is adopted. So. Okay. Yeah, thank you, everybody, for your input. So that would bring us to the next agenda item, capital plan amendment, Rossignol Park. Aaron?
So Recreation and Parks Director Todd Goodwin identified a need to renovate the Rossignol Park baseball field as its condition is creating a safety concern. In the town's capital budget and plan, parks improvements are contained on a matrix that lists projects over the 7-year horizon the plan covers. Language in the plan allows staff to shift the order and priorities of the projects based on needs and conditions. Given that the condition of this field has worsened over the past year, and Williston Little League has agreed to share the cost, to allow this project to move forward in this fiscal year, an amendment to the capital plan is required. And that process would require a public hearing prior to considering adoption of an amendment. So that's essentially the summary of it, and Todd is here if you have any questions.
Any questions for Todd?
I'm excited that baseball's seeing more use.
Yeah.
And so this is just to clarify for everybody, this is just moving money that's already been assigned to a different project in the capital plan. So this is no additional request for money. This is just taking in a major safety concern and addressing that first.
The capital plan currently has about $43,000 in it. The project that was slotted for this year was improvements to the Village Community Park parking lot, and that was to the sum of about $49,000. So we'd have to scale that back. But after the Recreation and Parks Master Plan, we're holding off on that, and this has arisen as a definite need for Rossignol Park. It needs to be done. And then also, this is in the plan, but there will be some work done on Williston Central School's baseball field, which is also in that same predicament of becoming unsafe to play. And we have, when it rains hard, water doesn't move out of either of these two, and people are pushing that into the grass line. They're cutting trenches to get the water out. So there's a lot of, not our maintenance going on, but people trying to make it playable. And they should not be playing, but they try to make it playable to get things in. Especially when you have a beautiful Sunday, but it rained all day Saturday. That water's still sitting there on Sunday. And the example would be, we resurfaced the softball field at Williston Central School, and that does not hold water whatsoever. It'll rain hard, you'll see the puddles. The next day it'll be very clear. It's called a native infield mix, and it works a lot better than the Hanukkah clay that we have currently on the Rossignol and the Williston Central School baseball fields.
Just out of curiosity, when was the last time that the Rossignol Park had been, renovated?
It was when I was here, and baseball did it. We didn't have anything to do with it. They had somebody come in and cut the lips out. Your infield blows into the grass and makes lips. They cut the lips out, and it distorted everything. And I would say it's probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago. And one whole side, the first base line, the grass is all cut out, and any infield mix that you put in actually runs off out of the field. So it's a waste of money. And I basically said to baseball this year, I can't put any money into it until it's repaired, because we're just throwing money away by it running off into the, off the infield where it should be.
So they're going to share the cost, it says?
Yeah, so Little League uses all the majors, the fields at Brennan and at Rossignol. They use those for their spring, summer, and fall leagues, as well as All-Star. And we don't rent out any of those fields, so I don't have any rental money coming in. So it's a partnership between the two. And we work to make the fields safe. They work to make the fields playable, the extra stuff or whatever else. And so, yeah, when I said that I couldn't add the infield mix until we got that fixed, they came to me and said, what do we do to fix that? So, and they were willing to put some money towards it.
Yeah, great.
Are there questions for Todd? No. So this would be we can't really do anything on this tonight except to warn a public hearing, and that would require a motion, should somebody be so inclined.
I move to warn a public hearing on a proposed amendment to the capital plan.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 There are no nays. The motion carries. Public hearing will be set.
Yeah, I'll work with Eric on identifying the best date, and then we'll go ahead and follow the procedure.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks.
So that does bring us to the next agenda item, library project design discussion. So come on up. Hello.
Hi again. Hello. I'm Carla Karstens. I'm the chair of the design committee for the library, and there's some other trustees and other design committee members, as well as Kevin here also. So got some support there, and many of the public here that are very interested in the library. So you had asked us to consider 4 items. And so last week, the design committee met to discuss those 4 items. And they came up with some recommendations. All of them are cost-saving recommendations, so that's good. The first one was to determine where the mechanical systems were going to be. And what they decided to do was to have that as a storage area, not up in a penthouse in the ceiling, but to have it as a storage area outside of the library. That would be a place where the mechanicals would be easier to access. They would have to be from the outside, though. But also, it's a storage area that could be used for other things, too. So, and the reason why that's a savings was because both options were in the original plan, so now there's only one, and so then that's a savings. The other thing is the furniture budget. The original furniture budget was kind of based on the bigger expansion. And now that we have a smaller expansion, the furniture option can be cut. And so that's a savings. The other 2 ideas, the left turn lane, it was deemed that that's not essential to the library. I think everyone would love to have that left turn lane, but we decided that the library didn't need to finance that, though we do want to kind of keep the option of having that be an add-on, that if for some reason the library project ended up coming in under budget, that could be something that we could arrange maybe between the town and the school and, be able to figure that out. And the fourth item, another exciting one, is about the parking. So one of the things when we, with the first plan, having the entryway where it was situated, having the parking lot in the back really made a lot of sense. It was going to lead to the front entrance. And it was a bigger parking lot. And the question came about, the necessity of having a parking lot again. And especially with the entrance now being along Library Lane, it seems that we're going to wait and see how the parking goes now and eliminate the parking lot that's going to be in the town green. So there's a couple of advantages to that. One thing is the cost advantage. The other thing is not encroaching on the town green. And then also because there's less impervious surface, then that means that you don't have to worry so much about the stormwater. So that will be a little bit of a savings too. Now, what's going to happen then is, and this was something that was proposed anyway, is that the big tree is going to still be removed. And so there's going to be some construction and kind of landscaping done along Library Lane so that the parking spots will be kind of in more. So they won't be jutting out. And especially those kind of not real parking spots that are parking spots will be eliminated and everything will be there. And then there'll be two handicap access parking spots. So I think that is, I think it's going to be a good plan, and we're going to just wait and see. I mean, the tricky thing about this parking lot is, the school and the library, and, there are times when, like if the school is having a concert or something in the evening and the library has a program, then the parking's tricky. That doesn't happen a lot. And I think one of the other things that we want to try to do is if there are going to be programs going on in the library, and sometimes there's something going on to the school, sometimes you don't. Like sometimes I've driven in and gone, oh, there must be something going on in the school, and there's no parking for the library stuff. But it's okay. There's still places to park. But so if there is something where we anticipate a large number of people coming, to talk to them about, for instance, parking in the town parking here, which is probably just as close, and then the parking that's in back of the Old Bridge Church, which is also accessible there. The other thing with this is we want the town's help in trying to keep that sidewalk clear, because sometimes like at the very end, the snow kind of just piles up there, and that takes up some of the parking spots there. So if there can be like I know it's really hard to figure out snow and snow removal and stuff like that, but that could also be one of the things that is kept in mind as this goes on. So with all of those changes, it is reducing the cost a little bit under $300,000.
Carla, did you talk to somebody at the school? Because that left turn lane was a requirement of the school district.
Was a requirement? For us?
Yes. Remember, the library's on their property. And they said, if you want to expand the library, you got to fix the parking. You got to fix the
I don't really, it seemed to me that when we met with Greg Marino way back at the very beginning, that he said that he thought that was a really positive addition and that he would support it, but I don't think that we ever had that as being a requirement for the plan.
I'll have to look into it, because I And I think it was an executive session discussion, so I shouldn't go any further, but I think it's expected, so you should, we'll have to double check that before you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess well, then that would be the difference. I mean, if it's something that we're required to have, then that would be what it would be, and then we know what the amount of that would be. I mean, the other thing that they could always do is just make it all one way, which is another thought, but.
Questions or comments?
I really appreciate that you all have been so, conscientious about feedback and about, again, really keeping this cost as low as possible and leaving some flexibility for, things to be, again, changed. I know that there's built-in room for, unexpected things, and so we can always knock on wood and cross our fingers and do all those things and hope that none of those unexpected things happen and the project comes in lower than planned, and maybe some of these other things can happen. But again, the amount of work that has gone into this and care, I really do appreciate. So,
Thank you.
I just have a question about the parking lot and elimination of it. When we were talking 2 weeks ago, I know we were talking about the price of that parking lot being like $1 million, and the elimination of it only saving about $65,000. So I was just curious how those.
I think that the $1 million was also some structural things that were going to have to be done.
Okay.
And then probably a little bit of the stormwater thing also that would have had to be done with that, but
Okay.
I don't know that for sure.
We have the consultant that's raising their hand. I think they can clarify that.
Okay.
Have the architects clarify that?
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Okay.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Answer that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mark.
Yep. So, Mark, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Yes.
Yeah, I just, regarding the $1 million for the parking lot, I don't know that that was ever stated as the cost of the parking lot. I can confirm that parking lot is not worth $1 million. And if anyone came away from the meeting 2 weeks ago with that impression, that was not intended to be the case. It is not worth that much money. The cost savings to eliminate it also includes adding up to potentially 4 additional parking spaces along Library Lane. So in removing the parking lot on the north side of the building, we're adding some of that cost back in to get more spaces along Library Lane. So that's why the savings is not as much, I believe, as people had hoped. But I will add that we have asked our cost estimator to rerun his calculations on that parking lot, both the pavement, the subbase, the curbs, all that stuff, just as a double check.
I might have been partly responsible or totally responsible for the $1 million, and it's because I'm looking at what, from Black River Design Architects project budget phase breakdown, $1.438 million for parking and landscaping.
Oh,
So I'm still curious, if we take 65 off of that, where $1.3 million of landscaping's coming from.
well, I think that the landscaping is more than just the landscaping.
Yeah, I know, and it is digging out, the foundation, it's probably the foundation site work for that part, but it's still, but that seems like an awful lot of money.
Okay. Great. Other questions for Carla? No? Okay.
Mark, you have your hand back up. I lowered it. Did you want to speak again? Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say regarding the note for parking lot and landscaping, that number includes all site work. It's all site utilities, repaving of Library Lane, new curbs. It's not just those 2 items that are listed. It includes work in the courtyard that's going to have to be torn up when we add the addition on. Underground electricals, sewer, all that stuff. So it encompasses a pretty big scope of work.
Okay. Great. Any other questions for Carl? Okay. So I think the thing to do here would be to open up the discussion for other people. We've been through
Thank
these issues quite a bit, but I know people still have input that they'd like to bring. So is there anybody who would like to?
Hi.
Hello.
First of all, I want to thank the library. They have done a lot of work, and I know this is a boatload of money. However,
So can you state your name? I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry, it's Lori Deering, and I live up in Williston Woods,
Thank you,
which is a low to middle income, over 55 community. I'm not opposed to this library, first of all, foremost. I don't want anybody here to think I'm not. What I'm opposed to is such a high price tag at the moment. I believe a lot of things you can start small, and as the population grows, the coffers get bigger, things get better in the community, you can expand even more. I mean, I'm already hearing that, oh, well, we'll just build a library, but next year we'll be back for parking, I'll bet you. Or next year we'll be back for this. So the reason I'm opposed is the property tax went up in the town of Williston approximately 5.8%. The water bill's going up 7%. If you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, your insurance is going up approximately 13%. If you live in an HOA, which there are a lot of communities around here, that is going up approximately 5%. Every state legislator, representative, and anyone who's running for any office right now is complaining that Vermont is not affordable. Housing is a necessity. Finney Crossing is not what most people would call affordable living. The average cost of Finney Crossing right now is between $450,000 and $550,000. That is not what, somebody who just graduated from college is going to be afford, even if they rent. You figured that if that home costs $450,000, the rent's going to be well over to $2,500 plus utilities. So there's a large population in Vermont and in Williston that are over 55, relying on Social Security and hopefully some pensions or savings. But the reality is Social Security is not going to go up 5% or 6%. It's more likely going to be 2%, maybe if we're lucky, 3%. I'm asking you to reconsider the total scope of the library to reduce the price. At this point, with the property tax, the water tax, insurance, housing, gas went up today, if you didn't listen to the news, and the difference in, pensions and Social Security, you're effectively going to kick out a large percent of the population in Williston. They simply cannot afford to live here. And that is a common theme throughout Montpelier. It is a common theme throughout most people in the state. People are leaving. What happens is Burlington has raised taxes. You know what? Yes, Williston in population may increase because Burlington is decreasing. People are having to move further and further and further and further out until all of a sudden they're out. I would like to see the young kids stay here. There's a lot of great talent, a lot of great need. But I'm not looking at an $8 a month increase in my taxes. I'm probably looking at closer to $100 a month. That's a whole lot of money. My medications, whatever you may take, they're not going down. I don't see anything going down. The library, we all know, it'd be nice to think it's going to come under the $9 million budget. It's not. They're going to have to just stop at some point. I don't see why it can't just be built more incrementally with maybe smaller additions to start and then go from there to help keep people in this community, help keep people, where they can afford to be here. I'm not saying the library is not needed. I'm just saying it's just not needed that big at this time. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You can ask. He's really good at it.
Yeah. Thank you. Would you be able to do the timer
Sure.
thing? Okay.
We think you,
So we are, yeah, if you can keep your comments to about 3 minutes, that'd be great. Okay.
I live in Williston Woods as well. My name's Jerry Ortego. And I'm on the Friends Committee at the library. So 3 years ago, I was asked by Jane Kearns to sit on the committee to design a new library. And I was pleased to be asked, and I thought it'd be nice to help out any way that I could. I was naive in the sense that this would be a simple task that would be embraced by everybody, because who doesn't want a bigger and better library? Well, here we are 3 years later, trying our best to get something on board. You should understand that my wife and I are seniors on a fixed income. We are comfortable, but I wouldn't say we have much money left over each month after paying the bills. I've been shocked at the rising taxes in the past several years and find the increasing costs for property taxes and utilities, leaving me wondering if I can afford to live in Vermont. And I look for ways to decrease my living expenses every day. Having said that, I'm a big supporter of the library expansion. I think about all the ways the library benefits me and enriches not only my life, but the town of Williston in general. The library saves me money every day. I can borrow books rather than buying them. I borrow DVDs of both contemporary and classical movies to watch at home and to show to members of my movie club at no cost to them. I participate in some of the clubs with no membership fee, which allows me to interact in a positive way with other people locally. And I just enjoy going to a friendly, welcoming place where I can sit and read a newspaper and maybe I can run into one of my friends. The library is a place where families go. Children can come and listen to books, they can listen to live music, and they can learn about the world in general. Helping to educate and socialize our children enriches the entire community in a very real way. The money spent by taxpayers for this project will go directly to the improvement of Williston itself, not to the state of Vermont, where it will be absorbed into the bureaucracy. You will be able to see and enjoy the results of your contributions directly. It's been very difficult for me personally to watch the whittling down of what I believed was a beautiful and affordable plan that would be a boon to this town. And I urge the board and my fellow citizens to support this project without any further delays or cuts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other comments? Dave? 3 minutes?
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is David Martell. I sent the document to, I believe, all the select board members. There's no actual document up on the screen, the plan, but as I mentioned, I've been looking for some quotes from contractors, and I got a couple people sending me some quotes. I've gotten one already, which I've sent you folks that information. So this project can be done about $300 a square foot. It can actually be less than that, but obviously, as I mentioned in the drawings, the jet outs, those add added costs. The curved entryway with the desk, that adds added costs as well. But we can do this project pretty affordable. I think we gotta look at some contractors and get some bids out there and look at what real number's gonna be. I'd also like to get a quote for the renovation portion of it as well, but I need more information to do that. So I do know a lot of contractors. I did have a contractor coming up with a quote for the parking lot, but that's not gonna happen, I guess at this point, so that's not any concern. But I think if we look at the contractors in the area and get some quotes for this, that $500 square foot is going to come down to $300 a square foot, which makes this project a lot more affordable. It's definitely not a $10 million project. That's excessive. I'd like to come up with some real numbers for the select board to look at, to evaluate what would be a worthy budget for this plan. And I just need some information to actually do that. If you guys are willing to let me do that, I have the time. I don't really have the time to do it, but I'm willing to do a little bit of footwork to get you folks some real numbers for what it would cost to actually do this project. Is that possible or not possible?
I think we have a time crunch is the problem.
Yeah, we got to decide whether to put this on the ballot at a meeting next week or the week after.
Next week.
Next week.
I mean, I could get a bid for the renovation portion of it, or just not do the renovation portion. As I mentioned, you saw the numbers I sent you for rebuilding, for putting the whole new section on. You're looking at about a little bit over $2 million, and they want $3 million just for the renovation of the existing section of it. It doesn't even make sense to spend that much money to do a renovation when you can basically start over from scratch with that project. So I think the numbers, I think the project is worthy. I like the design of it right now. I think the size of it is fine. I really didn't have a problem with the parking lot either, to be honest with you. It definitely was $1 million project, but we know that was incorrect, the value of it. But definitely, I think we look at this project and get some contractor quotes out there and try to bring that price down where it's a little bit more affordable for everybody. I think that would benefit everybody all the way around. And it also would actually make this project be a bigger success for being voted on and being accepted. So I'd like to see the project go forward, but I don't believe the $8 million is really just super excessive. You're looking at probably a $3 million project, maybe $3.5 million, definitely not an $8 million or $10 million project. That's just too much money.
It's 3.
I will say, I don't know, the architects and the design folks would have a better, but I think that, I would worry that we would get ourselves into some legal issues having private citizens take bids on behalf of the town on projects, because there is a legal process that is required to go to. Like, the reason we are doing it in this order and not getting bids ahead of having bonded funds is because we are required to do it in this order. So we've had the design firm has had, an estimator come, but we cannot take bids on the project. I see Mark has his hand raised, and so he may be able to address that better, but.
Mark, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think in as far as the bond process goes, that's typically the way we see it. We can't take bids until the bond has been approved. So that's standard process. I think with regards to the dollar per square foot cost, I know the way it was presented on the project budget worksheet, it was the 6,700 square feet was $511 a square foot. I do want to clarify that. That was for what I will call the usable square footage. That did not include 2,000 square feet for the mechanical mezzanine and the basement. And I did that on purpose because those are both spaces that the public is not going to have access to. The mechanical mezzanine would have been above the ceiling. It is now on the table to be removed. The basement is going to be accessible from the outside through a bulkhead. So that's the way I chose to do that. If you were to add the 2,000 square feet into the overall square footage, you get to 8,700 square feet, which when you do the dollar per square foot math, that comes out to $393 a square foot. And I have to be honest, post-pandemic, I don't think we've seen anything really below $300 a square foot for commercial construction. That's not to say it doesn't happen, but commercial work, $350 is really where we're at, and it really tends to go up from there. So I just wanted to make that clear that the 500, what that included and what that didn't include.
Mark, this is Jean. There's a note right on this thing we're all looking at that says the basement's only worth $108,000.
Yep.
So that makes it $495 if I just take the basement square footage and the basement cost out. So it's not 300. A basement does not cost $400 a square foot. It's a different number. So I still think the square foot cost is very high. But then I think everything's expensive right now, so.
Well, and yeah, that's a fair point. The cost of construction is very high right now. And I will say that 108 is the cost for just the construction. That number will actually grow when it's removed from the project and the fees and the contingency applied to it come out.
Right. So just like process-wise, and I'm just have some experience at this, but so this is the thing I've been really struggling with. I think this is a lot of money. I have questions about $500 a square feet or $495 a square feet, $1.3 million for site work. That's a lot of money. I'm more comfortable with the building renovation, just because I know those are tricky, but just, that's just gut feel. This is my problem, is that we were supposed to decide this week so that staff can get all the documentation ready for our approval in a week, our special meeting next week, so that it can go on the ballot. If we don't meet those deadlines, it doesn't happen in November, the whole project slips out, it gets more expensive. So I think this body is pretty focused on making sure that we make that August 3rd deadline. Point one. The second point is that, yes, we will absolutely go to bid. The projects that I've been involved with the school district, you get the bond, and then you get a general contractor who has to bid for that job, and then they will bid out the pieces of the job to other people. And so you are going out to get bids. We don't just like say, hey, here's $9 million, do it. And it's sort of an up to $9 million bond is what the public is approving. So if the bids came back and it's only $7 million, we're not going to go get $9 million. We shouldn't be going out to get $9 million because you have to do the project that the voters voted on. So we couldn't say like, oh, well, you know, they approved $9 million and we only got to cost $7 million, so hey, let's do the ball fields. You can't just decide that. It has to be the same thing. So there's some guardrails around that. So I've been noodling on this all day long. I reached out to David, asked some questions. I'm sort of uncomfortable that this is still more than I would be happy about for this project. It just seems $500 a square foot just seems expensive. But I also think we're not going to solve that in a week. And to me, it's more important that we get this on the ballot so that the people of Williston can decide. I think it's an uphill battle for the library folks because you're going to have to convince people that the 9 million is the right number. Or that it's really, hey, we got some better information, and it's really only going to be 8, even though you're voting on 9. That's going to be a little tricky, but if you guys have been looking at this like nonstop for a couple months, if you are absolutely sure that you have the right number, and that Mr. Martell's doesn't, that's going to be the work of the next couple months to convince the community that that's the right number. So that's kind of where I am, just after having spent a lot of time thinking about this, knowing that I have to vote tonight if I'm going to support a project that I still think is, you know, $500,000, possibly $1 million too high. But again, that's just because that $500 a square foot number and 1.3 for groundwork just feels expensive. So that's where I am.
Just one quick thing. So it's like when you say it's a $10 million bond, right? If people know it's a $10 million bond.
Not a $10 million bond, $9 million.
$9 million?
Yeah.
Oh, it's $1 million, right? I got that in my bank. That's nothing.
That's an important number.
So basically, a $9 million bond, everybody putting bid is going to be up into $9 million. You know, that's what it's going to be. Because they know you have $9 million to spend, they're going to bid up into the $9 million range. What I was looking to do was get some numbers for you folks so that you would know, okay, $350 a square foot for the construction. That included the concrete. The guy said what they call soup to nuts. That included everything. Did not include the landscaping outside or the parking lot. But the parking lot's no longer an issue, then we're just looking at landscaping outside. The renovation portion of it, I'm not sure what it needs. That's why I was kind of looking to get some information from that. The contractors that I've been contacting with or communicating with, they're actually all large contractors who work on projects like these as well. So this is what they do.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, this is a great project. They love to do it. I said, okay, well, I explained the situation. This is just gathering information so I can present it to you folks.
Yeah.
So that give you guys a bit more information and making a better decision on what is the value of this actual project. Is it an $8 million project, or is it a $5 million project, or is it a $4 million project?
Right.
You know, less for me is better. As I mentioned, with those simple modifications to the plans, it makes it even more affordable. It's just aesthetics is what those designs were for. It just makes it more affordable for everybody. And I'd like to see this pass on the vote. I know, but I don't want to see it pass at $9 million. If it was a $4 million project, no problem, I'd vote for that. But $9 million is just too much for me.
And just, I kind of explained the process because no one's bidding on the $9 million. They're going to be bidding on $500,000 of electrical and $2 million of plumbing, and so it's not quite that simple. But because otherwise I'd be with you on that one.
Yeah.
And my problem is I don't believe even with my non-zero experience, I could judge whatever construction company's going to come with, to talk to you versus Black River and make any, because if we say, let's go for a $7 million bond and it really is 9, then we can't finish the project. So.
Because I like to get
totally
the numbers
get it.
ahead of time, so at least they are something that you can look at to say, okay.
Hopefully, they'll all bid on the project and come in low, and then we won't have to spend it.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. All right.
I think 3 minutes is
Thanks a
up.
lot.
Yep.
My name is Barbara Meter, and I'm on the library board and the building committee board. And I think it might be helpful if Mark could explain to everyone how the cost estimator comes up with the figures that we are presenting to you, as opposed to what Mr. Martell has presented to you. So obviously there's a difference there, and we're relying on our architectural firm. And I think, Mark, if you could explain that, it might help everyone.
Mark?
Yeah, is that taking you by surprise?
Say that again?
Are you able to do that?
Yes, yeah. I'll certainly do my best. So typically when we do a bond vote, you know, we design to a certain level. And in this case, it was to a schematic level. We put together a set of drawings for our cost estimator. We sit down with the cost estimator. We go through the project scope for the level we've designed to. And in this case, our estimator, we've been working with him for decades at this point. We do a lot of much larger projects than this one with him as an estimator. He also has his own construction company, so he's well versed in construction. I would say he's arguably one of the best estimators we use in terms of his ability to actually think through how the building is constructed, because he actually does it. And so he brings that experience to his cost estimating process. You know, he updates his numbers every 3 to 4 months to make sure he's staying relevant with current cost increases. Pretty much every time I get on the phone with him, he tells me what's going up, whether it's steel or aluminum or concrete. Concrete is the big one that's going up right now. But I think most important thing that he does is, because he's a builder and he recognizes that this is an incomplete design, he uses his experience to fill what we would call scope gaps in the project, because the design isn't done yet. And that's what goes into the estimating. And so, you know, every division of labor, whether it's site, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, he applies that same logic to each trade in the scope of the project to come up with an overall number. I don't know if it, Barb, is that what you were looking for?
That's helpful. Yes.
Okay. We are running a little bit behind, or getting to, we're not there yet, but are there other comments? Yep.
And you have one online too.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Shari Westman. I'm also on the Board of Trustees, but as last time, first I'd like to speak personally as a resident and a little bit about why I care about the library, why I wanted to be on the Board of Trustees, and why I think that this project is valuable for a host of reasons and for the entire community. A little background, my career has been in public service. I've either worked for nonprofits or government, local government, for almost the entirety of my career. I understand not a fixed income, but a cost of living that rises greater than my wages. I currently earn just slightly above, like maybe $3,000, what I earned in 2015. I do not always get increases every year. We moved here in 2015. One of the things that I value most about the library is that it provides a service to everyone in the community if they want to use the service. It's open to everyone. It can save us all money just by being able to provide those services. Bringing my children there when other activities cost money. Going to borrow books when buying books costs money. Borrowing the passes to the state parks or museums, or going to events that are hosted by the library. The library provides, being on the Board of Trustees, hearing the staff from the library talk about the work that they do and the programs they put on, and the stewardship of the library for the town is phenomenal. I've never been more proud of a small community. I understand that these numbers, when you put it all together, are a lot, and that's why I really value the fact that we all put in a part of it, because it's not more for out of my budget to go buying books or go to get a pass that I can get there. I've already covered that cost, and everyone can use this service, and I know that the large project sounds big, but my piece of it is small, and I really value that, and I value that so much that I spend extra time trying to participate and bring that community, bring people, the community to the library, bring the library to the community, and help it make our town a better place. And so from the perspective of seeing my wages not grow, but having someplace that contributes to my ability to participate in community and the value that's added to my life and my family's life is tremendous. And I see that not just in my own family, because I see it in other people across the spectrum, from, birth to post-retirement. It provides something for everyone. And so, thank you very much.
Thanks. So somebody's online?
Yep, and just a reminder, if anybody else had intended to speak that's online, raising the hand feature is how it catches our attention. Dylan, I'm gonna allow you to talk and ask you to unmute.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, and Dylan, if you could keep it to 3 minutes, that'd be great.
Yep, I'm going to keep it nice and short.
Okay.
The one thing that I wanted to bring up is I'm a little afraid, as we keep on cost cutting and really trying to get around corners right now, is the risk of us running into an overrun. I know that there's already contingency baked in, but the chance of us getting a second chance at getting additional bonds, if more money is needed later on, we've already seen how long this process is taking for the original bond. Securing additional funds to help secure anything, if we estimate too low, if we don't understand the full scope of the project when we're trying to put a number on this, is going to delay the finishing of this project indefinitely. So I just want to say, while I know we might not all enjoy where the price is right now, I think it does afford us the security of knowing that we will be able to finish the project with its current price point. I think as we try and nickel and dime this lower and lower, we run a higher and higher risk of running into the ability to not fully complete the project at the end. And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else raise their hand online, Aaron? Okay. Any other comments from the room? Okay, well, then that throws it to us.
Well, like I said, the last couple meetings, $9 million bond was as high as I could go, and I'm willing to support. I think all we're doing tonight is directing staff to put the paperwork together for a $9 million bond, and we will make a decision next week, right? That's where I'm parked. So.
Okay. Is that the consensus?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think any final debate or comment that I'd make would be better for next week. So I'll say nothing. Anyway, but okay. So does that
Mark, I actually will try to summarize it, but my understanding is that they really need to understand what the elements of the scope you're willing to eliminate are so that they can fine tune those costs.
Oh, do we want, or any of the pieces that they presented to eliminate, are we
July
in agreement
17th.
with eliminating those? Is that?
From the
Kevin, am I representing that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was okay with that.
Yeah.
I was okay, except for the one that I don't know that this, I would just like confirmation that the school district said, sure, you don't have to
Okay.
have a left turn lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's,
Let's,
For the sake of moving forward, we could put that as an alternate for now, which wouldn't impact the cost, and we could find out.
Well, we also have this wiggle room, right? It's a $9 million bond we're talking about and a $10 million project, so, or 9.9, whatever we're at now, so yes, it can fall in there comfortably. I just can't say, yes, I'm okay with that until I'm sure that they've agreed.
Kevin, you're going to follow up on that? Okay. Okay.
All right,
I have to, yeah, okay, we just have to follow up with the central office.
okay. So with that exception, or with that condition, everything else in the July 17 letter from Kevin is what is our input.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
yes.
All right.
In between this meeting and the 29th, the consultants will then revise and ensure that these savings actually are indeed going to match. And then they're going to review the site plans, and you'll have that information at the 29th to make final decisions, is my understanding.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I know this is a contentious issue, and not everybody's pleased. Maybe nobody's pleased, but anyway, thank you for your input. So that would bring us to the next agenda item, the Code of Ethics Investigation and Enforcement Ordinance.
Okay.
And let's give it a second, Aaron.
Sure.
As always, shocked that nobody wants to stay for the
Yeah.
super fun stuff. Every time. Every single time.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the Code of Ethics.
Okay. So in your packet, you received a draft enforcement ordinance for the statewide municipal code of ethics. And that statewide code was passed via Act 171 in 2024, and it became effective in January 1st, 2025. It came with some compliance pieces. The biggest one is the enforcement ordinance that is being presented to you tonight. And that establishes a process for investigating complaints of possible violations and enforcing them. It's based on a VLCT model. We are a little bit behind in getting this adopted, but it's actually been to our benefit in that they've revised the model 3 times. So we are working with the latest and greatest that was updated on May 2026. So basically it sets up the process and formalizes everything as outlined in the memo. At the same time that we were going through the exercise of compliance with this new municipal code of ethics, I wanted to look at the 2006 conflict of interest ordinance to really see if that was still necessary to have. So provision by provision, I compared the two, found that the majority of the current our municipal code is covered in the statewide code. And for provisions that aren't, I made sure that they were either covered in the personnel policy. So of course you've got different groups of officers, which most of the ones pertinent to employees is covered in the personnel policy if it's not covered in the state code. For the volunteers, as I was working on the draft policy that I introduced to you, I think it was in May, I had done a lot of this work already, trying to ensure that it incorporated anything that might go away if you repeal the municipal code. And then there were a couple other provisions, such as the ex parte communications provision, that in consultation with legal counsel, they said that would be fine to include in rules and procedures, and that's a better place for it anyway. So having done that, I just want to preview with you that we're going to be recommending that you consider repealing the 2006 code.
Erin, I'm sorry, I didn't mess up your flow, but
That's
the
okay.
thing that you gave us to review is just like investigation and enforcement.
It
It's
is.
not the actual.
No, because we have no say. So the municipal state code of ethics, which was linked there, I should have actually probably provided.
I'm just curious, when do we get training on it, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we need to get the training done. That's another compliance piece. I've kind of been like, should I send the training out? But we don't have the enforcement ordinance, and we're so close, maybe we'll be able to do both. We're not, a lot of municipalities have not gotten there. I do want to tell you that when this was first established, they had like a statewide ethics commission that was supposed to help support municipalities with any questions. They, like within the first couple of months of existence, said, we can't support you. So this is not a well-supported initiative, in my opinion. So yes,
So you're giving us a lot of information, but the thing we're talking about is the enforcement aspect.
we are really focusing on the enforcement ordinance for us to be in compliance with how we will manage our any investigations or violation accusations.
Great, thanks for clarifying. I was just a little confused.
But all these pieces are interconnected. Which is also why it hasn't come to you yet, because I was trying to like figure out, okay, how do we present this in a palatable manner? So anyhow, the enforcement ordinance that was presented to you is really, I've compared it to other municipalities. Most of them are just rubber stamping VLCT's model, making a couple edits. I did put some customization in there that was relevant to Williston. But the one piece, I really, any feedback you have is welcome, of course, but want to hear from you for the designation of the complaint recipient and the alternate, how you would like that done. It can be done just left as it is in the draft, or you can designate titles that you would want to hold that position. There's pros and cons to both. The pros of identifying the titles within the ordinance is that whoever has that title is always going to be filling that role. But if you wanted to change it, then you have to change the whole ordinance. So the other option is to just make a motion in a regular meeting appointing people, which is kind of what you did with Eric and I when this all first started, but it was a little preemptive. And that, you just kind of, then you lose track of when did this happen, how long is this for, if, the person leaves, it's in that role, then you've got to redo it. So there's pros and cons to both, and just wanted you to think about that and which way you would prefer to go.
You want to talk about that first?
Sure. Happy to talk about it now.
I'm going to answer the question that you kind of proposed, and then I just have a thing in my head that I was thinking about, was that I think that this, if you have to get to this point where you're enforcing this kind of thing, it could be very contentious and get very legal. And so I kind of like we make it very specific at our reorganization meetings each March. Mm-hmm. That way, if we say town manager and assistant town manager, and then for some reason we decide that we're not going to call the assistant town manager that anymore, we're going to call her something else, but we don't come back and change it here, then somebody could look at that. So, I mean, so that was just sort of my thinking, is like, that would be very clear. Reorganization meeting, we appoint, that was my thought on that.
It's a good point.
Yeah, I had the same feeling, and capacity within roles changes consistently, so at some point in the future, somebody else's capacity and somebody else's, role. I could see Susan, being the person at some point, and so not wanting us to, different things come across our plates, and not wanting, to have to redo this whole process just to designate someone new.
Right, that's your point, is that we could, for some reason, want to decide it just for a couple of years, depending on capacity or whatever.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I should let anybody else talk about that, just before I throw my wandering out.
No, it's fine.
my wondering
They'll
was.
jump in. They'll jump in.
Well, they don't, and then they accuse me of hogging the mic, so I have to jump in.
I don't think anybody's accused you of hogging the mic.
A guilty conscience needs no
It's all in my
excuse.
head. It's all in my head that I'm hogging the mic. I just found it curious, and I don't know a way around, I couldn't think of a way around this, but it would just be interesting if the town manager is accused of it, then the person who reports to him is going to be leading the investigation. If somebody on the select board is accused of something, then the town manager who reports to the select board is going to be leading the investigation. I don't think that's that uncommon, but I also couldn't think of anybody else you would appoint, right?
Yeah.
Because you either work for the select board or you work for the town manager, and so I couldn't really think of a way around that. So I think it's just, we hire ethical people and we hold them responsible, and it can be appealed if you thought that, Erin was being very unfair because she thinks, Eric's going to fire her if she doesn't do her job. It could be appealed. So that was just a wondering. It was just kind of an interesting wondering for me.
I did talk to council about that because we were kind of, what is the best makeup of that? And obviously it'll depend on each municipality, but you raise a really good point. And that's why I wanted to call to your attention specifically that tentatively it is Eric and I, but it doesn't have to be. And, council did say he cautions against having elected officials being appointed in the role, which I think is fair. But it could look like maybe either Eric or I or Susan, that I try to think of different combinations to give you examples of. But that's something I think, would make sense.
So but that would be a discussion for further down in the process as who we would put in those roles. But yeah.
Which actually leads into a segue into the next question that we have for you, which is we kept the list of municipal officers identical to what's defined in the municipal code. It doesn't have to be that way, but as you were saying, roles change, titles change, people come, people go. So it's over extensive of what we have here in Williston, but there is a chance we could have an animal enforcement officer, or we could have some of these other positions. So I defer to you and look for your direction on what you want us to do. I've seen it done both ways. I have looked at a lot of different peer adoptions, and I'd say probably the majority of them just kept the list as it was defined in the state code. Others whittled it down and made the titles very specific to what's in their municipality. So
I think we should make it as broad as possible.
Okay.
I agree.
Including mayor?
Mayor, yeah.
First constable?
You never know.
Yeah.
Is there anybody missing? I mean, does it jumps out that anybody's missing?
I
Should
did.
be covered?
I'll look at it very
It
closely.
says department head, so it's kind of what, yeah.
Exactly, and it also says, I think legislative bodies is one of them, or quasi-judicial, so that covers a lot of different boards, so, okay. Let's see, and then also through this adoption process, council just flagged that you do a very thorough adoption process of ordinances, and I know first read, second read is really important, but the public hearing portion that has always been done in Williston is not a state or a statute requirement. He just called that to our attention, and it really can lengthen the process quite a bit, and whether that's right or wrong, that's for you to decide, but I did want to make sure you knew that wasn't required, because I know you also have a lot of meetings that are very full, so if you had wanted to, find some efficiency, that's an area that you could do that, so.
Well, I know that the rest of you love public hearings, so. But I personally, that wasn't one of my notes. I support, option B for that one, but I'm flexible, and if other people have strong opinions that, this is the way Williston does it, then.
Which one's option B?
Streamline.
Oh,
But we have,
I was the other way
It's
on that.
basically doing the same thing minus the public hearing.
Yeah.
So really, we notice meetings the same way we do for public hearings, minus posting in the Observer. We usually take out a legal notice. But we do front porch forum, we post them all in the same physical locations, and
is there a longer notice time? Is that the problem? Like, you could post an agenda for a meeting in a week, right? But don't the public hearings
Yeah,
take 30
I
days?
think
or
it's like
something?
15. It's either 14 or 15, and it also depends, like for bylaws or other things, it can be longer.
Okay.
But yeah, it does require a specific amount of time, which does help you often warn public hearings at your second hearing.
Right.
But for instance, like the way it's falling in summer right now, you only meet once in August. So
That's true. I guess I was thinking that the second reading and the public hearing was the same meeting often.
you usually choose to warn at the second hearing.
So we're adding a whole nother meeting.
Right.
And people would have the opportunity to speak up at the second reading.
Or the first.
And the first.
Have we ever had a problem where something didn't happen fast enough because we had the hearing? I can't think of it.
Not in my experience.
I mean, the ordinances, which have a longer one, I think that feels like we've extended. I'm really hesitant sometimes to ask a question or put it off because now it's got a whole nother month before we can touch it again. But if we're just talking to the next meeting, that isn't such a big deal.
Okay.
And you can also decide, like, if there's something that is an ordinance that you think is going to really impact a significant amount of the population. I mean, you can still choose to do that extra step. I think consistency is important, but I mean, if you don't always do it, but you do think, wow, this is something we really should have a public hearing on, I mean, there's nothing to say that you can't.
I don't find that people are shy. If they want to talk to us, they come and talk to us. They don't say, oh, I can't talk because it's not a public hearing.
I mean, do we know the reason why we have a more rigorous process than legally
predates
required?
Me. It's been done for that long. Yeah, I had actually asked Eric about it when I started here almost 5 years ago, and he also, in his time here, it's been done that way. So I think it was a decision made a long time ago.
Yeah, that predates me. I don't know. It was always.
Oof. And I didn't mean to like throw that as a curveball, but I just, I know you have a lot on your agenda, so I did want you to know that.
Well, I mean, in general, it's if it's not contentious, it's a open the hearing,
Yeah.
drag out staff, but 5 minutes later we close the hearing, so it's not huge, but
Right.
yeah. So we would have a first reading, a second reading, and we could decide at the second reading if there's a lot of public input or whatever, or we're sending it back for changes that we want a third hearing, which involves the public. But if it's just flying through, we wouldn't have to.
Absolutely, there's nothing against that.
Yeah, I don't think we need to keep the more onerous practice if the only reason is because that's the way we've always done it and no one knows why.
Well, and the meeting itself may be 5 minutes, but the time on staff too, to post it and to, do all of these things, it's not,
Hang around until they're 8 o'clock p.m.
Right, it's not that, it's not without other effects on our staff, so.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
It sounds like streamlining is the way to go. This kind of reminds me of like those fights you get into where like, well, that's not how you fold towels. Like, what is that?
No, there is a right way though for that,
Yeah. And then it turns out it was just because that's why mom folded them that way or dad folded them that way because
It's time, Greta, no time to talk towels.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, there's like, well, it was always done that way. Like, well, maybe it doesn't have to be.
I was actually hesitant to tell you. I was like, oh, I don't want it to look bad.
No.
Nope.
So, any feedback or questions on the proposed draft ordinance itself? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it looks good. It's good to have it down, so.
You provided direction on whether or not to include the titles. Definition you provided feedback on. Anything that would help you or that you would want to see before we formally ask you to consider repealing the 2006 code?
It's kind of hard for me to say without having read the new law, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I trust you. It seems like you've done a very thorough job of moving everything, making sure everything's covered, and so I trust you on that. But it would make me feel better if I'd read it, which I haven't.
Okay, I'll make sure you get it. And then I think you weighed in on a streamlined process. Okay. So we're planning to bring it to August 18th, as long as that fits in your agenda.
Yeah.
Is that a must-do? Are we like behind the times on a state something or other to?
Well, It's ideal, but
Yes.
But we're flexible.
That's what I'm reading and.
I will preview, we're also hoping to bring the second read of the draft volunteer policy to the 18th, and I think those together would be helpful, but that was kind of some of the driver behind the timing, but if there are other things that come up, that certainly can be flexible.
Okay.
I think that works, yep.
All right, let's do that. Okay, so if there's no other input, that would bring us to the next item, the GMX Cyclocross temporary event permit.
Yep, so you received the application itself along with department comments and review and feedback. I'll note that this event has occurred, last year was the only year it didn't, but it did the 4 years prior to that, and there's no significant changes that have been proposed. We've never had problems with the event either. I will say the one difference is that there is a youth cyclocross event that's actually taking place the day before. That didn't reach the select board threshold for your review, and that had already been approved through department level, no concerns at all. So it is kind of a busy weekend at Catamount. It'll be the 2 events, but they're very complementary.
No alcohol at that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Aaron?
I love it. I think we've seen this event grow over time, and I think that's great for our town and for the outdoor forest, so.
We actually have the applicant online who has his hand raised.
Oh, okay.
And they want to give you some comments.
Is it Ben?
Yes, Ben, I've unmuted you. If you have your hand raised, so I want to make sure you can speak. And we
Can you?
Oh, yep, there you are.
Hello.
Okay. I was, hey y'all. I was just raising my hand to let you all know that I was here in case you had any questions.
Okay.
All right.
And yeah, the Saturday event is the Vermont Youth Cycling Association. So it should be a good complimentary event weekend.
Okay, great. Okay. So there is a proposed motion.
Move to approve a temporary event permit for Green Mountain GMCX event on October 10th and 11th, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There were no nays. The motion carries. It is adopted. It is passed. So
Thanks, Ben.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So that would bring us to the VTEL wireless stipulation.
Oh my gosh, I had to read this 3 times. I still think I get it.
It's completely proceral.
And that's what it came down to. Thank you.
Yeah, I read it all and then I was like, oh, we just have to rubber stamp this, huh?
So
That's professional language.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So Michaela, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm Michaela. I'm the assistant assessor. I think a new face for me. Nice to meet you. No, I'm not. Yeah, so the reason I am here today is to inform you that VTEL Wireless has appealed our Board of Listers grievance determination regarding their assessed value for its cell tower and its communications property for the 2026 grand list. And basically I'm here to request that the chair of the select board executes the attached stipulation agreements, which hopefully you were provided, in lieu of holding a Board of Civil Authority hearing. The reason for this is that the valuation of certain utilities and communications property is no longer performed or set by municipalities. Act 145, which was passed by the Vermont legislature in 2025, states that the state of Vermont now determines the fair market value for certain communications and utilities property for municipal taxation. Under this legislation, listers and assessors are required to use the valuations that were set by the Property Valuation and Review Division of the Vermont Department of Taxes. And therefore, we do not have the authority anymore to independently establish or modify these utility valuations. Now, while this new law was passed and it has shifted the valuation from the municipalities to the state level, of course, the grievance process for this was not modified in the existing legislation that was passed. And therefore, property owners for these communications and utility properties, they have to follow the existing appeal process. So VTEL Wireless, consistent with our statutory requirements, they did file a grievance with the Board of Listers. However, because the Board of Listers is required by law to use the valuation set by PVR, the grievance was denied. And now VTEL Wireless has appealed to the Williston Board of Civil Authority in the next step. However, our office here has consulted with Benton Mitchell, who is our district advisor, and he's also the utility valuation coordinator, regarding how to handle this appeal, as again, this is kind of the first time this has happened under the new law. Mr. Mitchell explained that, again, this is the first year that this has been implemented, and that because the legislation did not establish a separate procedural mechanism for appealing the state-established values, it has resulted in municipalities across Vermont handling these appeals very differently. Therefore, to provide consistency, the attorneys at PVR developed a stipulation agreement, which is a voluntary use by municipalities and utility taxpayers. Executing the stipulation agreement will allow the appeal to proceed directly to the entity responsible for reviewing and defending the valuation, and eliminating the need for a Board of Civil Authority hearing that would not alter the valuation at the municipal level. Please note that signing the stipulation agreement, it does not represent an agreement by the town regarding the correctness of the valuation assigned by the state, nor does it waive the taxpayer's right to challenge that valuation at the Superior Court level. This approach is consistent with the written and verbal guidance provided by the Vermont Department of Taxes and the model agreement prepared by the department's attorneys for municipalities to use during the first year of this implementation. Therefore, our office is respectfully requesting that the Select Board Chair execute the attached stipulation agreements on behalf of the town, and again, in lieu of having a BCA hearing for VTEL Wireless.
Sounds like catch-22, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's,
If there are any questions, let me know. I'm happy to talk about this.
so like the gist of it is that the appeal would go to the Board of Civil Authority, but we're not the ones who set the value on this anyway.
Right.
So whatever they do, they're going to appeal. So this just cuts that out and brings it up to the next appellate level.
Exactly.
It doesn't affect any substantive rights of the town. It doesn't affect the facts of the case. It's just procedural.
It's just purely procedural to, again, skip the BCA hearing at this point. It's not kind of like an omission of anything on our behalf or the taxpayers. Again, we don't set these values anymore, and therefore it's the state who, again, the state
So they
didn't, change the legislation. Oh, they should have done so. So we had to kind of follow the procedures as they are right now. But this is kind of what PVR basically said to us, again, in lieu of having this hearing.
And I think PBR even drafted the template for the stipulation agreement.
Yes.
Do you know if PVR is anticipating going to the legislature to ask for that change next session?
No, at this point, I have not heard of anything. Yeah, I've not heard that part, quite honestly. I would have thought they would have probably done it at the time they passed the act, quite honestly. But again, that did not happen. So here we are, and I'm again kind of just regurgitating to you the guidance that was given to me.
Sure.
Because again, it does sound like different towns are handling this differently, but this kind of seems like the most straightforward path for us. Again, just I think a hearing for the BCA would kind of just
be pointless.
Not really be worth our while if this agreement, again, acts as kind of the bypass for it.
I mean, all BCA meetings are worthwhile, right?
This one would probably be the quickest one you've ever had. Like, it would really just
We've had some fast ones.
Yep.
Yes.
I have no problem with this in general. I was just kind of curious because Ted, you would know this better than me, but I'm surprised that the chair has standalone
Yeah, me
authority
too.
to sign this. I would think that we would have to move to authorize the chair to sign.
Yeah, I was going
That
to say either a consensus or a motion.
I think a motion would be
Yeah,
better.
okay. So,
Okay.
want to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay.
Except I see Greta's already forming it in her head.
No, you can certainly do it if you would prefer.
Let's say, well, help me out. What would we say? Move to authorize the chair to sign the stipulation agreement
Yes.
on behalf of the board?
Agreements. Agreements.
Agreements?
Two agreements.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? No. this does remind me of a legal Latin phrase, though, that the law does not require a useless act, which is what the BCA hearing would be. Lex non cogit ad vana sui initiali. There you go.
You did
I
not
also
go
can't
down.
process that this might be look differently next year if we have utility evaluate, like utility grievances, so we shall see.
We shall
What they come up with.
Year by year.
All right.
You want to take a vote?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We made a motion, we need to
Thank
take a
you.
vote.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposed, the motion carries. All right. So that
Sorry
would-
you had to wait so long. Should have done that earlier.
Thank you.
So that would bring us to Planning Commission appointment.
Yes. So currently, the Planning Commission has a vacancy for the regular seat, which has been advertised, I think, since April. No applications have been received. The alternate on the commission who served since October 2025, Wilmer Chaveria, he has expressed interest in the seat. Actually, I think he was approached by the Planning Commission because they really thought it would be a good fit for him. And he did say that he was interested. So presenting that to you to consider.
I think this is what happened with Mickey too. Mickey Myatt was the alternate, became the, you know, so we then kind of established that we didn't necessarily need to go through the whole procedure again because we already approved this person for this role.
Right.
So I'll move to appoint Wilmer Chavarria to the Planning Commission as a regular member for an unexpired 4-year term through June 30th, 2030.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. The appointment is made. So that would bring us to manager's report.
Okay, I'll try to save some time here. You have the future issues and the finance report. Shirley's not here, so if you have any questions about the finance report, I don't know that I can answer them, so I'm gonna preview that. Special meeting, I don't know that Eric had heard from everybody, so I want to make sure there's a quorum for the 29th at 7 o'clock, I assume probably, but he wanted me to double check.
Yep.
Can everyone make it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the reason we had to do it on the 29th. I apologize.
Okay.
So.
Works for, okay. Excellent. Quarterly reports, I previewed when I distributed the materials that we do have some departments who are looking up for feedback on the data that you receive each month. So wanted to make sure, is there anything that you'd like to see? Is there anything that you don't find helpful? Some of the departments have to do a lot of manual work to get that data, and others can program it, but they don't want to spend the time to do that unless they know that it's really valuable. So if you like it exactly how it is, that's fine too, but would like.
I was, I have two things. One is I have no idea how much time it takes for the staff to put these together. So,
Yeah.
you know, I would probably be, I like the data. I find it very handy if I have to have a conversation with someone about why do we have this, or why do we have so many policemen, or how many, whatever, you know, I think some of this data, I like having the data. I could get it twice a year maybe instead of 4, if that helps, or, you know, alternate fires, if that helps. If it's just easier to just do it every quarter, which I have some tasks that are just easier not to let it go 6 months and then try to recreate, that's fine too. But that was one concept I had. The other one is that I think that I would be interested in, I don't find the police department information particularly useful. And it would be interesting just to let our new police chief sort of, he shouldn't say, well, that's the way it's always been, so I'm going to give that, but just sort of standalone, this is how many of everything we did, doesn't tell me a story, doesn't tell me what he needs, it doesn't help support growing the department. So if he has interesting ideas on a better report, I would be very open on that particular.
Okay.
I mean, I agree if it, you know, I don't want to create more work for folks and departments in terms of data, but I do find the data helpful. And I also, in general, think that the collection of data and statistics is a good practice for anybody to, you know, see where they're at. And so, but if it was twice a year, that would be also fine.
I have no strong opinion on it.
Yeah, Public Works is kind of the same thing. I guess it's just for me, it's like, I think that our fire chief does a really good job of getting his point across through his data. You know, here's the data, and this is what it means, and this is why you need to help me. You know, he does a really good job with that whole storytelling as opposed to just numbers. And so I would encourage our department heads to think about that if they do want to make changes, but most of them are fine. You know, they're good information to have.
I would look to you, though. I don't think you will have any complaints if you went to 2 times a year.
I would support that.
Something that comes to mind, though, is you do get the annual report, but it is pretty delayed. So, you know, what would those 2 look like? Like what?
Well, I mean, it could be the same data, only
Yeah.
we get it, you know, don't put it on top of the annual report. Maybe we get it, you know,
Like the second, like mid-year? And
yeah,
then
and
end?
or
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll complain about it.
They can thank us later.
Okay.
But I do like the data. I do like to have it, but I don't think it changes dramatically in 6 months.
Okay, twice a year, and we do have a new police chief coming in, and we also will have a new public works
Public
director,
Works,
so
yeah.
that's an opportunity for them to look at that data and make any proposals. and-
Right.
Okay, that sounds good. Staff news, Williston Fire Department welcomed recruits Brady Dunlap and Jay Thomas on June 29th. They're participating in the standard 8-week recruit academy that's led by Battalion Chief Will Moran. And that's it.
And this will be Will's first recruit academy then too.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that's great.
Okay, so that would bring us to other business.
Me.
Yep.
So, Town Clerk Mason had sent you a packet of 7 catering permit requests. They're all for weddings at Isham Barn, and they're all with 802 cocktails. She made comments that he's very organized, and she reviewed them closely, no concerns. I don't know, does Eric usually read the dates?
Yes.
Okay. So August 15th, August 22nd, August 29th, September 5th, September 12th, September 19th, and September 26th are the dates.
Busy barn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It's wedding season. Does he provide any other information on that? Typical, pretty standard. Okay. And then we have one other, this
Can we
is,
approve those ones first?
oh, do you want to do them?
Let's just
Yeah.
approve those. Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There were no nays, and they are approved.
The next one is actually one that you had approved a couple of meetings ago. It is for a wedding that will be held August 8th at a private residence. The reasoning that they're resubmitting is that they changed the end time from 10 o'clock to 12 a.m. This is also tied to an event that we did a temporary event permit review for. Given that the time change was so late, I did re-notice all of the abutters to just let them know that they had an opportunity to give feedback, that nobody reached out. Departments reviewed it again, provided some additional comments, so the TEP is being revised to match the liquor license request, which is till 12 o'clock. So it is for Collaborative Stoke LLC. Their licensee name is Trailbreak, and you've already approved it. It's just really approving the change from 10 to 12.
Okay. Is there a motion or any questions?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, what was the name of the LLC?
Trailbreak.
Collaborative Stoke.
Collaborative Stoke.
They're actually White River Junction, Vermont.
Well,
Does the temporary event permit, is that the, I mean, I get concerned about noise ordinances
Yeah.
and things like if it's going that late. We don't usually do past 10.
Yeah, so the police chief in his comments just reiterated that the DJ had to stop by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And he said alcohol would have to be last call at 11:30.
Yeah.
It is in a location where all of the abutters are going to the same event. Just-
Okay, so, sounds like everybody's going to be stoked.
Yep,
All right.
I think that's fair, so.
Okay, so, all those in favor?
Aye.
There are no nays, it is approved. So, was there other,
Can I have the one plug?
what?
One plug, there's
Yeah.
one other bit I know we're
Yeah.
running late, but we had 2 cemetery commissioners retire. It's a cemetery commission of 5. So 2 of our longest standing commissioners did retire at the end of June. One of our commissioners has sometimes trouble attending meetings, and so we are at a quorum issue sometimes, and I'm trying to recruit for 2 to fill the 2 seats, ideally 1 very soon. They meet once a month, April through November. They each split up some much reduced tasks. We took on a lot of some of the physical operational things that the 2 retired commissioners were doing. So it's really gratifying work, and if you know anybody that would be interested, and anybody watching this after tomorrow, would love to get some applications on that. Same with, we have a town TV trustee position, actually, for the group who does recording of these meetings, their trustee group, we have a Williston representative. That seat has been vacant for quite some time. And I think they meet every other month once. 1 third Thursday every other month. So if we could get some applications for that, that would be great. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Okay, that would bring us then to final thoughts on agenda items from this meeting. Are there any?
I guess the capital plan amendment, having to like have a public meeting to shift money from one to another, is that, that must be required, but it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, we can shift money in the operating budget without having to have a public hearing.
I want to say it's because the list wasn't identified on the matrix. So because it wasn't, then it's requiring a public hearing.
It's always good to be transparent.
Yeah, but we would spend a lot of time if we had to do it every time we move money in the operating budget, which is way bigger. So, you know,
yeah.
I just thought that was curious.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
if Eric has any thoughts on that, that would be interesting to.
Okay. He did approve of placing that on the agenda, so I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's. But, it could also go in
But
the-
why, and to have a public hearing
wasn't
about it,
saying it
and to,
wasn't-
you know, it's a lot of steps to,
Yeah, to shift money from one project to another.
yes.
It was per 24 VSA 443, so it's required for considering an adoption to an amendment to capital plan.
I'm going to know if our capital plan was more at a higher level, if that would allow something. You know,
Yeah, okay, I'll call it too as a
Facility, I don't know, Parks and Rec projects at, you know, $250,000 as opposed to listing every one. I don't know. I don't have that one memorized.
Okay. I'll bring it up.
I wanted to ask how much Little League was pitching in. That was my joke for the night.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying,
Very
because I
funny,
didn't catch it right away.
Actually, I stumbled on the fact that it sounds like it's exclusive, so my thought was kind of like, why are we doing anything?
Yeah.
Why is the town paying for that if it's an exclusive use by the Little League field? So that might be a question I might ask.
This has been,
I mean, is it exclusive if it's the town?
Yeah, they said that we don't rent those fields to other organizations. It's only for the Williston.
So if we don't rent it, but we use it, then that's, would probably be okay. But if we don't use it either, that might be something we should.
Right, yeah, it's exclusive use to the Little League.
having the Little League use it is us kind of using it, but I get your point.
I don't know many other things we say, only this organization, only the
This-
pickleball club can use those, and we close the courts to everybody else.
There was a huge conflagration years ago about the scoreboard.
Yes, I remember that one.
And,
Had the Coke logo under.
yeah, yep, and Chair Ginny Lyons was accused by people that she had stock in Pepsi because she said kids and Coke don't mix on a sign. So it went like wildfire through town. Ginny Lyons must have stock in Pepsi. I was like, yeah, that's how we roll.
We do have a signage policy now, though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but it was about whether this
Yeah.
town was going to put some money into the
Right.
scoreboard or not, and it ultimately did. But it was not without contentious meetings. So I don't know. I don't have an answer. Any other Any other thoughts? If not, then I will declare that we are adjourned.